Alright, I'm going to do one more of these today, and if you guys are interested, you can check out my YouTube channel. I think it is the Ogre Compound, or it may be Team Ogre. I honestly don't know. I think Drew Darden, Jeremy, I hope I'm not giving anything away by calling him by his name. Anyway, he has posted one of the videos, and that is my YouTube channel. And I think some of you have potentially followed me on Instagram, and so there's two Instagrams that you can follow that I will put videos on. The main one for the gym is the _ogre_ compound. That's the gym one, and then my personal one is Big Weight 800. And if you're into bourbon and whiskey and beer, you're probably going to see a lot of stuff you may be interested in. My hobby outside of strength, and I don't consider my strength training and gym a hobby. I mean, it's definitely a way of life and a second job, to be quite honest. My hobby is collecting and sampling bourbon, and so you're welcome to follow and see what you see. Anyway, one of the questions that Jeremy asked me is, how do you set up a squat cycle? Again, it's progressive overload. So I always follow and prescribe and program with a percentage-based program. And the basis of this came from the Texas powerlifting scene. Tom McCullough is a good buddy of mine, and he had on his website a template. Now, my template certainly varies from that, but I'm very much about progressive overload. I just feel like that is the best way for me to peak. That does not mean that I think other protocols don't work, or that I'm an anti-West Side guy, because I'm not, and I've been through that already, and I will answer questions directly as to why, but it is not an anti-anything. This fits the scope of my personality, which I think really comes into play with how people train and how consistent they are, and ultimately too how successful they are. Not everything is a fit for everybody, so that really fit me on a personality level. And it's also steeped in what they call the CAT method, which is compensatory acceleration training. So as opposed to doing a bunch of speed work, as having a dynamic day and then a max effort day, we're always trying to be dynamic. And I have written a couple of articles with Tom's input, and I know Ricky Dale Crane is a big proponent of compensatory acceleration training. So there's lots of articles out there that I encourage you to read and make a decision for yourself. And so I set it up where here's the reason why I do the set and rep scheme, and it's really what's important to me is the rep scheme. For our competition style squats, I only ever do at the most doubles. Now here's why. Even with elite level powerlifters, when you see them do multiple rep sets, I've watched this over and over and over, and I've had some of the greatest squatters in my gym, and I have judged some of the biggest squats in the history of the sport. And what I have seen in training is that the form degradation from reps 1 to 2 is even apparent. You have to be really, really focused, and to keep those lifts to be even close to the same. What I have seen a majority of the time is once we get past 2, the form starts breaking down. And so I only use doubles, and then when it gets heavy enough, we do multiple singles. So where do you get your volume? Because that's generally where the question comes from. And that's why I've always liked, for assistance for my squat, is more squatting. And so how I set that up, it's a different ball game because our percentages are going to be significantly lower. But I like doing anywhere from 3 to 6 reps, and I like for the squats to focus on whatever a weak point may be. Now this is what experience has led me to. Generally, a cycle is going to be anywhere from 8 to 16 weeks. That seems to be, and usually 8 to 12 more often than longer, like 16. And so what I have found is that you really can only focus on one, maybe two issues in that time frame and really have any success rate. Now the trick is to address a weakness and make it stronger. But what we also want to do is make sure that what we're doing, and we're leaving space in these sessions, that what is strong, we remain and cultivate that strength. So that's how I set up a training cycle. And in the past, we were very, very much more team oriented. We all got there at the same time. We all did the same things. So a lot of times, and of course we didn't have near the equipment available, that I do now. So there was times where we only had room for one, type of assistant squat. But nowadays I have, just as an example, there's 3 monoliths and there's 3 combo racks, there's 4 power racks, and then there's a pair of Forza squat stands. So there's ample room for everyone to squat, and there's ample room to have specialty bars or whatever the case may be. And so for each lifter, what I try to do is focus on one issue, what seems to be the most glaring issue, or sometimes it's not what is the worst issue, it's what, if I can bring up this one issue in an 8 to 12 week period, that will have such a dramatic impact, it makes some of the other issues not so glaringly apparent. I hope that makes sense. So sometimes you have to pick and choose carefully what you want to address. But I will promise you, if you have a half a dozen issues that you're concerned about with your squat, you're not going to be able to address them in a training cycle. It's not going to happen, and I know there's going to be people out there that will disagree with me. Best of luck. I have found that not to be true. So from there, I like to have something that works the hips, and we do a wide sumo stance squat. Now the trick is this isn't a dynamic squat. This isn't something where I'm trying to get you to use a lot of pace to get into the pocket and be explosive coming out. This is an assistance movement where we're making the hips a primary mover, but out wide it is also very tough on the hips. So we go just a moderate pace, and we think stretch, and we go as deep as we can so long as we can keep the chest as upright as possible. If it's starting to dip, then that's as deep as we go, but we push to get a little bit of a stretch, and then we come back up. And this is done lightly, even at my strongest. Now I squatted over 1,000 pounds. At my strongest, the most I would either do 2 sets of 10 or 1 set of 20. And the most I ever did for a set of 20 was 255 with 100 on it. The most I ever did for 10 at my strongest was I did 415 for 10, and I went out, I was pretty supple for an old fat guy. I would have my pinky toe touching the base of the monolith, so that's out there fairly wide. And so I have 2 of the monoliths I have are the Amerilifts that Doug Klein made when Karen was alive and making bench shirts. So that'll give you a little bit of history about what we use. So, but be cautious. I would go out a little bit wider than your normal wide stance, and I would start there. And a lot of times 95 pounds, 135 pounds is ample weight, because what we're trying to do is create supple hips. We're not dancers. We're not trying to do the splits. We're trying to make those hips supple. That makes them stronger. And because we're doing it in a squat exercise, we're hitting the hips in the manner in which we want to use them. So, and again, the more supple you are, it is again a preventative for injury. So that's the basic squat template. There's other things that we do for assistance, but this has been a little bit longer winded than I wanted it to be, and I don't want the videos to be too long. So that's how I go about setting up a squat cycle.